Today we're going to have a look at the Monteverde Giant Sequoia. This pen was very kindly sent to me by Goulet Pens. I appreciate it because I received a lot of review requests for this pen. So, thanks to the Goulets, you will now get a review of that pen. Okay, I'm going to quickly cover the box here, then I'll cover the parts of the pen, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like about it and don't like about it. The box, so it has this outer sleeve, and I don't know why, but for some reason it doesn't want to come out. So we'll push it out. Here you have the box. It's a slightly upgraded Monteverde box from the ones I have seen a while ago. I like it. It's kind of nice. It's a fake leather, but it feels a bit refined. I like that stitching. It gives it kind of a nice look. Pen goes in there, of course, and you can take out this little bed. In there you will find two cartridges, a black and a blue. Monteverde has been doing that for as long as I can remember. That's kind of nice. You can pick what color you like. It does come with a converter. You can use it with bottled ink, but you can also just pop in a cartridge and start writing. In the box is also this Monteverde USA. It's the lifetime warranty card they supply with their pens. And then there is this, which is the refill instructions card. So, nice package, not super elaborate, but I think it's quite nice for a pen at this price, to be honest, because it definitely feels, to me, it feels fairly luxurious. With the I know it's not actual leather, but it feels proper. Okay, let's have a look at this pen before I go into more detail. So what's it about? A larger pen, Giant Sequoia, and I think the size of the pen, to be honest for me, is not so much in the length, is more so in the girth. It's a fairly fat pen, because it's not small, but I've seen bigger pens in length for sure. Comes in a couple of colors. This happens to be the green. There's also a brownish pen. I want to say there's also a bluish one. So there are color options available if you don't particularly like the green. There's also a bunch of nib options available. So this happens to be the fine nib. I'll show you a close-up in a sec. But standard number 6 nib, Monteverde nib imprint, again, show you a picture of that or a close-up of that in a second. So I like that. It's also neat that it posts, and then it's definitely a larger pen. So I think the pen has quite a couple of things going for it. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay, etc. Monteverde Giant Sequoia. So let's look at the parts of the pen. I'm just going to unscrew this because in this new setup, if I do this, then sometimes the finial is a bit close to the camera and it doesn't really focus. So finial, same material as the pen material, so the rest of the material. Barrel, same thing, which I kind of like. As a clip, let's look at that. Monteverde typically has clips that you can operate quite easily. This one is maybe a little stiffer, but it's definitely loose enough to use comfortably, I would say. Center band says Monteverde USA, and on the other side it says Sequoia. I like the material, nice acrylic. As I said, there are other colors available if you don't particularly like this green and black combination. Cap unscrews. I like caps that screw. I like that better than caps that pull off because I find this a little bit more robust in a pen pouch and such. It doesn't come off as easily by accident. That's just my opinion, of course. Nice number 6 nib. I like the Monteverde nib design with the mountain range. I also like that mountain range actually has the M for Monteverde in there and then the V. I don't know how well you can see that, but it is there. And I also like that line diagonally cuts through the breather hole. It's just nice eye for detail. The Monteverde logo is on there as well, and it says Monteverde USA again. And then on the side here it has the nib grade. I always like nib grades that are on the nib because then you just know what you're holding. Steel nib, nothing fancy, but works well. Fairly thick, girthy barrel. Threads here which are not particularly sharp, and then a slightly tapered barrel. It's It's a little hard to see, but you can feel that it's hourglass shaped. So it tapers down, it flares out just a little bit. And the section is actually not huge. I mean, you can see that if you look at the diameter of the barrel here and then the diameter of the section, it's not huge, but it is, I find it quite comfortable to hold. So people with larger hands, I think they will find it comfy. That's pretty much it. You can unscrew the barrel, of course, converter, almost empty, but just enough ink, I think, for the writing sample. Screws back in place. I always get a little nervous when the threads on the inside here are acrylic and this is metal, because I'm always a little afraid that at some point that will strip the threads on the inside, but I mean, I haven't had the pen for years and years to try that out, so I don't know if that will happen. That's something that may or may not happen. Okay, now what we need to do is show the pen in action, or see the pen in action. So that's what's coming up here. Okay, pen was uncapped for just a second, and that can dry out the nib a little bit, so I just did that. Monteverde, giant Sequoia. I'm just going to put down Sequoia to save a little bit of time. This is the fine nib, and the ink is Schaefer green, which I've always found a fascinating color because it doesn't strike me as the sort of archetypal green, but it matches the material well. Okay, writing, feedbacky. Not terrible feedback, and of course it is a fine nib, so you can expect a little bit of feedback, but it's not an ultra buttery smooth nib for sure. Does write well. Okay, bit of fast writing. And as you can see, the nib keeps up pretty well, or I should say the feed keeps up pretty well. There's no real skipping, which is nice. Okay, as to wetness, it is a fine nib. I don't find it a particularly wet pen, but as you can see, the ink flow is I think, good. It's not so dry that it barely writes or anything. It does write properly. It's just not a gusher or anything. Okay. Line variation, as always, very careful when you do this, but it is a steel nib, and you can see you can squeeze out a tiny bit of line variation. Just be careful you don't overstretch anything, right? Reverse writing, for those of you who enjoy that, it's already a fine nib, but you can turn it over and just turn it into an extra fine nib. You see you get a little bit more skipping behavior. It is drier, but you definitely get a finer line. So for a couple of words, that's probably fine. And you have nibs that get very scratchy when you do this. This is not one of them. It's actually still quite smooth. So that's a nice ground for those of you who enjoy this type of stuff. That's pretty much all I have to show you for the writing. So the end of the writing sample. Let's look at what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and of course a very kind thank you to Brian Goulet for sending over this pen for review. Okay, what do I like about it, and what do I not like about it? I'll tell you what I like about it first. I think it's a decent pen. I think it's fairly solid. I mean, it's a larger pen, not huge. I was expecting a larger pen because it's called Giant Sequoia. But it is a slightly bigger pen, especially in girth. It's affordable. List price is $95. I think the Goulet sell it for $76 right now. I mean, let's face it, when it comes to fountain pens, that's really not that terrible. So I think that's nice. Number 6 nib, always nice. Number 5 would look fairly absurd on a pen of this girth, I think. It's kind of nice. And number 6 is easy to flip out, right? You can get other options, other nib grades. It's kind of nice. I also like that Monteverde actually engraves their nibs, not just laser engraves. It looks good. It's just neat. I've always enjoyed that. So that's all very cool. The nib was a little dry. I've experienced that before with Monteverde. It does write, and it writes properly, but it is on the dry side. So maybe either use it with a wetter ink, or make it a bit wetter, or have someone make it a bit wetter for you if this is if this plagues your pen as well. But again, having said that, I think it's a pretty solid piece. It's a nice larger pen for people who want to experiment with a bigger pen without spending a whole lot of money. and I think that's just a very nice option. You also have a bunch of colors available, so if you don't like this green, you can get sort of a brownish color, which is also quite warm, and there's other options, which I think is nice. Nice range of nibs, so it's pretty solid. I think one thing that people would really appreciate is if they could eyedropper this, because it's a pretty large barrel, so you would be able to fit in quite a bit of ink. But of course you have the metal threads of this section, so whether that's really recommended, I probably wouldn't, just to make sure it won't rust. But hey, you get a cartridge, you get two cartridges. In fact, you get a converter, and a converter at that, which actually holds a pretty decent amount of ink. So I don't think it's terrible. But I know with acrylic pens, people often like eyedroppering it. So there you have it. A very kind thank you to Brian Goulet. I appreciate you sending me this. That's awesome. Measurements of the pen as well as high resolution pictures will be on the website as always. I hope this was useful, and I'm glad to see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.